Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever started a fitness routine full of energy and motivation only to fall off the wagon a few weeks later? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. Today, we're going to break down the science of why that happens, and more importantly, we're going to build a simple, actionable blueprint to make your fitness habits stick, for good. Let's just start with a number that kind of puts this all into perspective. According to the American College of Sports Medicine, only about 20% of Americans are actually meeting the recommended guidelines for physical activity. That means a staggering 80% of us are falling short. So that begs the question, right? Why is it so hard to stay consistent? It's really easy to just blame it on a lack of willpower, but the real answer is so much more interesting than that. It's all about learning to work with your brain's natural wiring, not fighting against it. All we need to do is build the right system. So in this explainer, we're going to build your fitness knowledge from the ground up. We'll kick things off with the psychology of how your brain even forms habits. Then we'll get into the 5 practical keys for consistency, get smart about designing our workouts, and wrap up with how you can personalize your training to your own unique biology. All right, let's dive right into the brain science. If we want to build a habit that actually sticks, we first have to understand how our brain creates these automatic behaviors in the first place. Think of it like learning the rules of a game before you try to win. You know, all of our automatic behaviors, from brushing our teeth to checking our phones the second we get bored, they all run on this simple but incredibly powerful process called the habit loop. It all starts with a cue, which is just a trigger, that leads to a routine, which is the action you take, and it all finishes with a reward, which is what tells your brain, hey, that felt good, let's do that again. And the more you repeat this loop, the stronger that neural pathway for the behavior becomes. This amazing concept is called neuroplasticity. You are, quite literally, physically rewiring your brain to make that action easier and more automatic, which means it requires less and less conscious effort over time. Okay, so we've got the theory down. Now let's get practical. With this psychological foundation, we can start using specific science-backed tools to consciously design a habit loop that makes fitness feel, well, almost automatic. Turns out there are 5 core strategies that researchers have found are absolute game changers for turning good intentions into consistent action. We're going to walk through every single one, from setting a consistent time to planning for when things go wrong and even stacking habits. First up, create a consistent workout window. There was a huge study that found that 68% of people who successfully kept their weight off worked out at a consistent time of day. Your brain absolutely loves predictability. Doing this creates a really powerful, time-based cue for your fitness routine. Second, you want to link an environmental stimulus, or a cue, with the action of exercising. A study in the Annals of Behavioral Medicine found that people who did this were almost twice as likely to hit their physical activity goals. So seeing your gym clothes isn't just a passive reminder, it's an active trigger that kicks off the whole routine. Now this one is so cool because it helps you plan for chaos. Let's be real, life is unpredictable. The if-then method lets you create a plan B before you need it. So when an obstacle pops up, your brain isn't scrambling. It already knows the solution. You don't have to rely on that fickle, in-the-moment willpower. And finally, let's talk about habit stacking. This is all about leveraging the habits you already have down pat. You find a behavior that's totally automatic, like making your morning coffee, and you literally attach your new workout habit directly onto it. The old habit, making coffee, becomes the cue for the new one, like, say, doing a 10-minute stretch routine right after. So you know how to show up consistently, and honestly, that is half the battle, maybe more. Now let's talk about what you should actually do when you're there. The goal here is maximum efficiency and, of course, effectiveness. So the foundation of any smart strength program should be built around compound exercises. These are the big, multi-joint movements, think squats or pull-ups, that get a ton of muscle groups working at once. They are incredibly time efficient, and they build that functional real-world strength. Now, after your compound work, you can bring in isolation exercises. These are single joint movements that are designed to target a specific individual muscle. Things like bicep curls or calf raises. They are absolutely perfect for addressing weak points or really focusing on muscle growth in a particular area. And this chart just lays out the key differences perfectly. Compound exercises give you the most bang for your buck, period, both for strength and calorie burn, because they have such a high energy demand. Isolation exercises, on the other hand, are more like a scalpel, letting you focus on specific details with much lower overall fatigue. So, here's the crucial takeaway for structuring your workout. Always start with your big, demanding compound lifts. You want to tackle these heavy hitters when your energy and your focus are at their absolute peak. Then you can save the less taxing isolation work for the end of your session. Okay, finally, let's get to the most advanced layer of building a sustainable habit, learning to listen to and work with your own unique biology. I'm telling you, this is where personalization becomes a real superpower. For women, understanding your menstrual cycle can be a complete game changer for fitness. Research is showing that these hormonal shifts can have a huge influence on energy and strength. Early in your cycle, during the follicular phase, rising estrogen can make you feel super energized. Around ovulation, you might actually be at your peak strength. But then later in the luteal phase, as progesterone takes over, it's totally normal to feel more tired. And this quote from a research participant just shows how real these shifts can feel. She describes this really clear breaking point in her performance right after ovulation, where things suddenly felt so much harder. And that's not a lack of effort. That is a real physiological shift happening in her body. So, the key takeaway here isn't about following some rigid script based on the day of your cycle. It's about developing self-awareness. Start to notice the patterns in your own body and give yourself permission to adapt. The ultimate goal is always consistency over the long term, not hitting a personal best every single day. So, when you combine the psychology of habits, the right strategies for consistency, and a deeper self-awareness, you have the complete toolkit. You can build fitness not as some awful chore, but as a skill. You can absolutely be part of the 20% who succeed. So, the only question left is, what's the first small habit you're going to build?